Hi, good afternoon. This is Mark Heinzman with Matrix Systems. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. I was just kind of waiting a couple of minutes to see if some other people were going to join in. This afternoon we're going to talk about Frontier Credential Management tools. So these are some of the tools that are built into the Frontier application in regards to making badges and ways to manipulate data, reduce data duplication, and create a more consistent environment with making cardholder records. So it's going to probably be a fairly short webinar today. It's going to be about 20-30 minutes probably, but I've got everybody on mute right now, so if you have any questions, just go ahead and send me a chat request. And towards the end, I'll go through the different questions and give you guys some answers for them. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Real quick, I'm just going to, give you guys a quick overview of what's to come here, like I've been doing in some of my other webinars. So in Frontier version R4, which we are releasing in April, we do have the web client mobile solution where you'll be able to use a web browser as the client, which will be really nice. Instead of having to use the actual client loaded on a workstation, you'll be able to get into Frontier from a web client. Any web client will work. It's browser agnostic, and it is designed to be able to be used with tablets as well. Just the way that we've actually done the graphics interface is designed to be able to be used with a tablet. You could use it on a phone. Probably won't be using it in that manner. We will have an actual app to be used with the phone as well, but that'll be coming a little bit later on. And then we'll also have what's called multiple credentials, which is the ability to assign credentials to a person. So we'll be able to assign multiple credentials to one person within the system. In the past, the actual credential number has been the identifier of the record. So we're changing that so the identifier of the record will actually be a person, and you'll assign credentials to that person. So with that said, I'm just going to give you guys a quick actual look at the web client here. And I'll just do this fairly quickly because this isn't what the webinar is about today, but I thought it'd be nice just to be able to give everyone a quick view of it. So I'm logging into the web client right now. There's the first version of this, it'll be somewhat limited in the functionality. It won't have all the functionality that the actual client has now. But we'll be doing this in phases, to be able to add more functionality to the web client as we develop it. But the first version of this, as you can see, we've got the ability to do credentials and people here. So what you're looking at here is these are different credentials in the system. Kind of give you an idea of the way it flows here. You've got your photo for the credential. You can deactivate people and validate them, do whereabouts on the different credential itself and the person. And as you can see, the way these everything is sectioned off. So we can create permissions for different sections here. We can resize the windows. We can collapse these windows to give us more space here. But basically, just going to give you the ability right now to be able to actually manage your credential records at this point. You also have the ability for scheduling. So we'll be able to go in and actually be able to tweak schedules from here. And then right now we also have the operations screen. So we're going to be able to do some basic operations functions, being able to come over and control normal secure doors, unlock them, lock them, etc. So some pretty basic operations type functions will be available in the first release of the web client as well. But just wanted to kind of give an idea of the way this looks and the way it flows. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of the web client. And I'm going to get back to our webinar here. Another thing we have coming that's scheduled for June is a next generation building controller. So, currently our building controllers they're being upgraded right now, and we're going to be going with this next generation here. This is going to be a rack-mountable, 19-inch rack-mountable appliance. So it's a 1U appliance. You can rack mount it. There'll also be an option to wall mount the building controller as well. It is going to have a solid-state hard drive, so it is considered appliance. The only thing that's going to be a moving part inside the new BC will be there will be a couple fans, but other than that, everything is solid state. We also will have the ability to do gigabit network connections with the new building controller, and it's going to come with 6 onboard serial device connections. So should be plenty of connections for your controllers and your sub-controllers to be able to hook those up. And it's also going to have a low consumption power supply as well. So let's go ahead and get into the webinar here. Today, the main things we're going to talk about today, or the main functions, are going to be badge templates and mass edits. These are tools that are designed to simplify the ID process. It will give you the ability to update records, existing records if you want to clean up existing records, as well as make changes to records as the need occurs. It's going to really give you the ability to affect multiple records without having to go in and modify or tweak a bunch of records with the same information. And I've got a couple scenarios that I've set up to go through, and we'll actually do that with the application itself. So the first thing I want to look at is going to be badge templates. Badge templates are going to give you the ability to create a template that has, say, consistent information that you're always adding. You can create a template that you can actually just tell it, say, hey, I want to add 10 records to the system, and I might have a template for, like, say, a standard employee, or maybe even contractors, or people who have, different badge credentials that have like information. This will save you time, by not having to enter in the same information over and over, as well as, it'll create consistency in your data to make sure that those records do get updated with the proper information, or maybe there's a standard of information that you always use when you create records. So it'll eliminate the redundancy, and it'll also create a more consistent environment. So some of the badge template examples, like I was saying, you want to define badge configurations with like values. I do have a standard employee template I've created, as well as a contractor template I created that I'll just show you a couple quick examples of adding some badges to the system. One of the other things I like about this is assigning the default access to badges using the templates. I think this creates a more secure environment when you're not relying on somebody to have to enter in the default access all the time. This way you'll be sure that default access always gets assigned to the different values. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the application and take a quick look at the badge templates. So right here, this is the template setup screen. We're just going to take a quick look at this to give you an idea of what it looks like. But I get to this screen from the setup screen itself. And what I did was I went in the setup screen and I did an edit, and I went to badges and then to templates, and that's what got me here. As you can see, I've got 3 different templates set up. I've got the Acme Contractors Downtown, the standard employee setup, and the standard employee with corporate headquarters. So the reason I have different templates in here is because not all of the default information is always the same. And I think that's what you're going to find out here is that you really got to think about the templates you set up and make sure that you're capturing all the same information with the template that you need. So basically it's fairly simple. The screens here look a lot like the actual badge setup screen itself, and it should look familiar to those of you who are already using Frontier. But, so like on the standard employee, I've got the data group as corporate headquarters. They work at Matrix System. Personal information you're not going to see a lot of since that's specific to the user. But on access, you can do the access, set up your default groups, set up the standard badge they may have, and maybe even add notes if you need to. So you're going to have a lot of choices as far as the default information that you can set up for each template. But this is going to be the screen where you're actually going to configure those. And then once you've configured them, on the badge setup screen itself, the way we're going to use that template function is we're going to go ahead and click on the template. It's going to bring up our list. And so let's just say standard employee. We want to create a standard employee. And I can create as many of these that I need to at a time, but I'll go ahead and create 5. And if you look here, it just created 5 templates for me to use. So I have record 1 of 5, and it updated corporate headquarters for me, works at Matrix Systems, not a lot on the personal screen, but it did apply the correct access groups that I wanted it to, that is standard, as well as the badge type itself. And if you look here, you're going to see that there's there aren't any badge numbers defined yet at this point. It's just going to add these records without badge numbers, and then you can go back and you can apply badge numbers, and take photos and enter in some of the personal information as needed. So if I go through here, I've pretty much got 5 records without badge numbers that are ready to go. And then I can come back in here and say, well, I'm going to do John Smith, enter in his name, maybe the location he works at, the building. If I know his job title now, so I'll give him the technician job title, works in information technology, and I'll just come in and fill in the rest of this information, take his photo. At this point, I'd probably add his badge number, and then save it. So really the badge template is just, if you can come up with some basic consistent information and create templates that way, that's really what we're looking for, is just a starting point and a way to create consistency in the badge records themselves. All right, so I'm going to move on here and actually go to start talking about mass edits. So mass edits gives us the ability to manipulate record sets. And these record sets, the find screen is the tool that we're going to use to return these records. The find screen is very powerful in Frontier. It's more or less limitless as far as how you can search for records and the combinations that you can come up with. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the badge screen here in the find. So, in Frontier, we've got a couple different ways to search for things. A lot of people will typically use what's called the quick search. And the quick search is really designed to do exactly what it says, quick search. Most people are going to search by badge number or last name typically here. And it's just a quick way to find a record. So say, for instance, if I'm looking for myself here, I can find my record very quickly. But the other tool we have for searching is called the find. Now, the find is much more powerful than the quick search. So with the find, we have the ability to search on our badge records with, like I said, it's pretty much an unlimited combination. I could say I want to find anybody with a last name that starts with an H. And actually, I want to do a clear search first, but let's go ahead and do H, see what we find here. Okay, so there's 3 Heinzmans in here. But, basically, I can create different combinations to search for things. So, if I want to search by company, let's see who works for Datacom. And I can do a find now. Now, these are all the different people who are actually tagged as working under the Datacom company. If I want to look for, say, for instance, everyone who works for the Matrix Systems here, I've got my 5 records that I added, and I didn't finish filling out from my badge templates. That's what you're seeing there. And if I want to, let's search for Acme. And I've got quite a few people here who work for Acme. The nice thing about this grid view here is, as you can see, you do see the photo, but you also see the status of the badge here. So it'll let you know kind of by quickly looking here if the badge is disabled or if it's an invalid badge. You can do some manipulation here with the data as far as changing status from the screen. You can do purges or deletes. A delete in our system only flags a record as deleted. It doesn't purge it from the system. If it's flagged as deleted, you'll still have the record in the database, and you'll still be able to run history on that badge and have all the links in the background to know what actually happened with that badge. So it's always a good idea to just delete badges, but leave them in the database, assuming you don't have a too large of a database. And nowadays, most databases don't get too, they're not too large anymore because resources we have a lot more resources these days in regards to those kind of things. So doing a purge is actually getting rid of a badge or removing it entirely from the system. And when you do a purge at that point, you can't get the history on the badge because it's completely out of the system. So right here on the left side of the screen, I showed a couple quick ways you can do searches. Last name, first name. Basically, if you go through these tabs, you're going to find all the different values in the badge screen that you can search by. So like if I just wanted to search for valid badges, those are all my valid. Say restricted, don't have any restricted. Have some invalid, you can see you got the X on the badge here. But it's very powerful as far as the way you can search for data within here. And it's pretty much every field that's on the actual badge record screen is searchable through this window. And what we're doing here is we search for a record set. This is a record set of all the invalid badges. And then once we've done that, we can come over and we can do a mass edit. So I'm going to jump back to my PowerPoint real quick here. So what we're going to do here is, right here we're talking about, we've already talked about this, basically returning record sets and being able to change considerable amounts of data quickly. And it will reinforce consistent data entry by doing this. So the best practices before we actually pull the trigger on this and start manipulating records, this can be a very powerful tool. So you have to be careful what you do here. I'm not to try to scare people here, but you do want to be very careful when you're doing a mass edit on badges because you do have the ability to update, as many records as you return within that search. So, I always suggest just making one change at a time to make sure you know what you're changing or to really review your data before you change it. Like I said, one change at a time. And then if you're doing something really major and you're not sure about what you're doing, it'd always be a good idea to talk to whoever the administrator is of your system, of your Frontier Access Control system. And it's not a bad idea to ask them to do a backup of the database before you make a major change. So I've got a couple examples here that I was going to run through on the mass edits. So I'm going to do the contractor datacom, and so this is a good example. Say we had a contractor datacom, their contract ended earlier than we had expected. And now we have the need to deactivate these badges immediately or change the expiration date information. We also have the need to update their representative name and phone number because that has changed when the contract expires. So the way we're going to do this and change the datacom badges within the system is I'm going to go ahead and come into the find like I had done before. So we'll click find. I'm going to do a clear search, which clears out all the search criteria, which is kind of a gotcha. Sometimes you'll get in here and say, fill out a couple different fields, and then you'll try to do a find, and you won't be finding anything because you had forgotten that maybe you had specified criteria in here that you had forgotten about. So clear search will just clear everything out of here. But this one's going to be fairly simple. I'm just going to go to company name. I'm going to choose Datacom. And I'm going to do a find now. I've got 5 records from Datacom. This could be 500 records, as you can imagine, but we just got 5 in this database. I'm going to go to Mass Edits. And so I've got multiple windows up at this point. This toolbar right here is your navigation. So if you want to come back to badge setup and you click here, it's going to take us back to badge setup so we can go through the records themselves. And we've got an expiration date of the end of the year. We can go back to the find screen. That's going to show us our find screen. Or we can go back to the Mass Edit Setup. So I'm going to go to Mass Edit Setup, and this is the Mass Edit Setup screen. This is specific to badge access edits, and this is specific to fields other than badge access. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do an add, and I want to change expiration date. So I find the particular tab within the screen that I'm looking for. Just happens to be access where we're at. I'm going to choose expiration date, and I'm going to tell it I want to do a change. And it's currently at the end of the year, but I know that their contract is actually going to end, let's say, June 1st. So let's choose June 1st, and I'll do OK here. So what happened after I made this, entered in this new configuration is the View Original and Preview Change became available. So always good practice to hit View Original, and it's highlighting the original piece of information that I'm changing. So I know, okay, expiration date is what I've told it to change. If I click Preview Change, it'll show me the change that it is going to make. So this gives me the ability to actually see specifically what the system is going to change. I mean, I know what I told it to change, but this is actually going by the settings that I just gave it and showing me that information. So I'm going to go back to Mass Edit Setup because I like what I see here. The expiration change looks good to me. I can either at this point add another field, or I can just go ahead and apply it and then come back and do it again for the representative. So I'm just going to actually go ahead and apply it. And it's telling me I've got 5 records. Do I want to do this? I'm going to say yes. And it's telling me it's complete, and it's updated 5 records. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. And I'm going to close this out. And now I'm going to go look at my records. So my new expiration date is now 6/1 across all these badges by just doing that mass edit. So, you know, that is the basic idea of mass edits right there is, you know, the ability to search for the records that you need to search for, come into mass edits, and quickly change that information that you're looking to change. So I'm going to go ahead and actually change a couple other things here. Let's see. Let's do, let's just say representative last name has changed. So I'm going to do a change. I'm going to do the representative is now going to become me. And I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm also going to change the phone number. Okay. So I'm going to do an OK. And I'm going to do a View Original. And the last name was Wade, and the phone number is still 8675309, but I'm going to leave that anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply here. And it updated 5 records. So now if I come back, I can see that Heinzman is now the representative on these records. And I have an expiration date of 6/1. So I effectively changed the expiration date of all these records as well as updated the company representative. Now, I'm going to do one more quick thing for these. I'm going to change the status on some of these records. So actually, let's go back here to our slides, and we'll go with the next scenario. Actually, I'm going to do that with them. So Acme, their contract was extended. So we're going to change some data on the Acme records. IT supervisor changed on the IT department. And then we have a couple other scenarios with the maintenance department. So I'm going to get out of here real quick, and let's do a search for the Acme records. So I'm going to clear my search. I'm going to choose Acme. Now I've got quite a few records here for Acme. So I'm going to go in and change the expiration date, similar to what I had done on the other badges here. So I got to remove the existing mass edits that I had done. And now we're going to change the expiration date on all the Acme records to, let's change it to the end of June. So as you can see, there's actually 25 records updated on this one. So this you know, there's quite a few more records that I had actually manipulated on this one. So expiration date 6/30. So I think I'm just going to probably go through one more example here, and I'm just going to change the status on all these badges. So actually, we'll go in and everybody who works for a matrix, we're going to deactivate all those badges. So actually don't have badge numbers on here, but basically just search for everybody in matrix systems, and then I can actually do this from, instead of going into the mass edits, I can go to change status on all. So the status is valid. I'm going to change it all to invalid, contract ended. So am I sure I want to do this? Yes. Okay. So now if I come back here, and I'm going to, let's see, do my find. So now I've got invalid contract ended on all the matrix badges. So I think that gives a pretty good idea of what you can do with mass edits. Pretty much, you know, you have the power to search by any combination of criteria within your badging screen. And once you do search for those records and return those record sets, mass edits will give you the ability, you know, to actually manipulate that data. So that's pretty much, you know, the gist of mass edits and what you can do with it. I'm gonna actually open it up to questions here, and if anybody has any questions, actually just send me either a question through here, or you can send me a chat message. Either way. So I don't see any questions yet, but I'll just wait a minute here and see if anybody has any questions. Well, I'll tell you, I'm not seeing any questions so far. Oh, I'm sorry, here I got one now, I guess. Let's see. So I have a question on here about the new building controllers, actually. Yeah, so the new building controllers will be, it says, will the new building controllers be a direct replacement for the old ones? So yes, the new building controllers will be able to replace the old building controllers. You know, the only constraints that you'll have there is if you do have building controllers that have the digiboards in them, that'll have digiboards provide more serial loop capability. The new building controller will come on board with 6 serial loops, and then we'll have the ability to add 2 more serial loops to that, so for a total of 8. You know, assuming you don't have a building controller that has more than 8 loops, then yes, they are definitely a direct replacement for the older building controllers. So I also have another question that says, can we add access to a batch of employees too? Yes, you can definitely manipulate access and add it. So I'll show you really quick here how we can do that. So once again, we'll just do a find. I'm going to change this to say all the Datacom people. So here's all my Datacom people. If I go to do a mass edit, What I'm going to do here is I can do an add. So I'm going to actually do an add, and I'm going to choose contractor access, and then I can set activation and expiration from here as well. But I'll go ahead and do an OK. And so basically I'm going to add contractor access to 5 badges. So if I say yes here, go ahead and close that out. So now you can see I got contractor access that I've added to each badge. So yeah, you can add or remove access to badges as well. I have a question about will the Frontier version be a free upgrade? I know that as far as the upgrades are concerned, if you do have an existing service agreement with Matrix, then the software itself is free for the upgrade, and I believe what we charge for is just the labor to actually upgrade the system. So the copy and move, I had a question about what the copy and move does in the mass edit setup. The copy and move will do pretty much what it indicates it'll do. It gives you the ability to copy information from field to field or to move it. So, you know, a move from field to field is like doing it's kind of similar to doing like a cut or a copy in Windows. So the move is like doing a cut. You know, you have, let's say for instance, you have a telephone number in a field and you want to move this number from this field over to say, you know, the fax number or whatever actually would make sense. The move feature will move this information from this field over to the other field, and it will no longer be in the first, you know, in the existing field that it started with. Whereas the copy, if I did a copy from this field to the other field, it'll leave the information in the existing field as well as copy it to a new field. Okay, I'm looking through here, see if I have any more questions. I did get a question as far as if you have R2 and you'd like to upgrade to R4, would you need to visit the site or would you need to do the upgrade on site? Every situation or every site is kind of different in regards to actually needing to be there to do the upgrade. We don't always have to come on site to do upgrades, and we really need to kind of evaluate the situation to see if we need to do that. But no, we don't always need to come on site to do upgrades. Between R2 and R4, we can do that upgrade remotely. It will just depend on actually taking a closer look at the site and seeing if we can do it remotely and seeing if that makes sense for everybody involved. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and in the webinar here, if anybody does have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. This is my email address. So you know, if anybody has any questions or anything wasn't totally clear, let me know and I'll get back to you right away. So, all right. Thanks everyone. Appreciate everyone's time and have a great afternoon.